Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Star Trek Thursday. I'm Matt and I'm here along with
Captain John.
Captain John Beard Picard Riker. Luke. Um so Jean Luc Picard Riker Beard, uh we're talking about where no one has gone before. Happy with the update, because even with TOS it was like, there's women on this ship, right? And
Oh yeah, no, and
like
by 87 we come long enough that we were able to make that make that change.
exactly. Like it didn't make sense not having it. So anyway, my question to you is, John, because I can talk about this episode for a while. There's a lot I want to say. What are your thoughts about it so far?
About this particular episode.
Yeah, not about TOS. About where no one has gone before.
Right. So this one I would consider probably the first pretty decent episode in season one. I
I'm gonna.
realize it isn't saying a whole hell of a lot, but
I
it's
would.
pretty steady. You can tell that things are starting to come together.
I need to interrupt and say I'm gonna also say I think this is the first good episode outside of part of the pilot. I don't know which half. Uh, this is no. I'm not saying this was a great episode, but it was good, and it's what we needed so far because there's been a lot of bad.
Right. So this was a pretty solid episode. Not the greatness that we would eventually get, but it definitely a step in the right direction. I would say it's the first like genuinely watchable one that we've seen so far.
I love that. I don't know. I just love that description. Is it great? No, but generally watchable.
And there's it might be a case of damning by faint praise, but no, it's a solid episode, and it really it feels like it's a very and true to its name, it feels like a very Star Trekky episode.
And something that's very strange about it is there's something in this episode that's so bad that maybe some people would say that it is the worst episode, maybe of the whole season or the worst episode so far. But I think that even with how bad the Wesley thing is, there was so much great in the idea of, the whole visualizing your thoughts thing, having the Traveler, who I hope does appear again in the future, or someone of his race also appears again in the future, because it's such an
Yes.
amazing, in this series or in general.
No, he does make a couple more appearances in the series.
Good, because it's a character that I would feel very odd if we just kind of threw away after this, because it is such an amazing concept. But no, the stuff with Wesley, I mean, we can even get to it right now. What the hell? Why? And we've talked about why before, potentially, but John, just existentially, why?
Well, you know what, if it's part of the cosmic plan, I'm sure that it's not for us to know what purpose it would serve. But really, the short answer is the fact that he was a self-insertion character still at this point in the series. So making him be extra special and in this case be the chosen one, is like I said, that's part of it.
So we talked about him being a self-insertion character for Gene Roddenberry before, but I don't believe you mentioned in previous episodes, or maybe you did and I forgot, terrible memory, that Gene Roddenberry's middle name is Wesley.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Which probably goes a long way to explaining why Wesley is what would be considered a Marty stew, is because like I said, it's a lot of what I think Gene Roddenberry wanted to be when he was that age, and he definitely put a lot of himself, brilliant, misunderstood, that kind of thing.
I'm definitely going to sound like a broken record because I've mentioned this before, so sorry, longtime fans, but I just I think that the biggest problem with Wesley isn't even who played him. It's just which was I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton. It's not even his fault. It's just how old he was at the time. He needed to be younger to make this golly gee Willikers shtick work. But being what he's not a 30-year-old playing a 10-year-old or 15-year-old, but he definitely he's well because that happens. John Glee.
That would be extreme Dawson's Creek casting, where it's just like he's 30 years old. He's like, I want to go on the bridge, Captain. Why don't you ever let me play on the bridge and let me fire the phases?
So we're doing this. We're just letting him do this. I have to call him boy. You know, in the British theatre, we would not do such things. In the theatre troupe, we did no such things.
Enough of this malarkey and tomfoolery.
Oh my god. Stop laughing. No one's laughing. Stop it.
Oh,
Someone was laughing. I heard it. It was on the fourth floor, room D5. Stop it. None of this.
One other thing worth mentioning, though, is the fact that this is based on a very similar premise from a TOS novel called The Wounded Sky. It's not, it's not like a direct remake or anything like that, but it's heavily inspired by a Diane Duane novel from the TOS era.
Wait, so it's a novel that came out around the time of TOS, or it came out later, but it's set in TOS times?
It came out, I think it came out later, but it was set in the TOS era.
Right, okay. And again, brilliant concept. I really enjoyed it. And something else I enjoyed in this episode as well is even though they didn't really do as much, they found a way to include everyone. And I feel like that's something that has been kind of missing from certain episodes of TOS, where you kind of sit around and you're like, what's so-and-so doing? And even TNG has had some of that throughout some of these episodes.
Yeah.
But in this one
is much more of an ensemble cast. It's not, whereas, with TOS it was the big three, and then the other characters were kind of just used to pad out, the scenes as necessary.
Yeah, and the reason why I mentioned this, John, is because again, TNG has had some of that here and now for the here and then for the past few episodes, a little bit. But with this one, with how big it was, I mean, literally, they're at the edge of the galaxy. Well, no, they're a few galaxies away, and then out of nowhere, they're at the edge of the galaxy. You can't just you have to be sitting around and being like, yeah, what's Troy thinking, or what's Yar thinking? What is Worf thinking? And I'm happy that they went to everyone. Even, again, it felt like Worf was really doing more of a cameo than actually being in the episode. But I still appreciate them actually having him there, because it would be so odd if for the whole episode we never saw like Yar or Worf. It'd be weird.
Right. So everybody gets something to do. Everybody gets to contribute to the story, or at least to the atmosphere in some way. Which, like I said, and it gives us an opportunity, kind of like what they tried to do, and I think what they had intended to do with The Naked Now,
and failed.
Was to kind of show us, and failed, was to kind of show us a little bit into the minds of these new characters. And I think that this was a pretty elegant way to do that. Honestly, like I said, I think they had better luck with that this time around. Gave us glimpses into Yar's childhood on the failed colony. A little bit about, even just like I said, a little bit into his first appearance of Targs, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, this one probably should have been that episode. Honestly, like it should have been slotted in for that episode. Having this air within the first few episodes would have sold me personally.
Right. So they could have led with that rather than the Naked Now. But real funny note about the not real funny, but real quick note about the Targ is actually that was a boar that they had dressed up to look like a Targ.
Sounds about right.
And it was a real live boar, and she left a stain on the carpet that took like months to get out.
Patrick Stewart walks around. Even the boar is more calm than the rest of you. Oh, can I mention as well? So, look, I just like everyone else, I understand why there are I don't know if I have problems with Wesley, but I understand why there are problems now. But Jesus H. Christ, what has the child done to make other characters not even use his name?
He's just a boy.
But what if he even says it? And maybe some people out there were like, "Oh, I can't believe he's defying them." But no, I'm sitting there and I'm like, because the second that he goes, "My name's Wesley Crusher, sir," I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, dude."
They got obnoxious that they kept doing that, and I know the whole point was that the adults don't listen to Wesley, but Wesley's right. Then they were kind of playing that to the hill. But yeah, it got obnoxious, but it was worth something that at least the character pointed it out in the show.
Yes, thank God. But the reason why I think it's obnoxious as well is because, I don't know, there's something about, like, okay, I know, like, we've been joking around about, Patrick Stewart, but I do feel as if, and there have been stories of this, Season 1 Patrick Stewart would call him boy. Like, personally. Like, instead of calling him Will, probably call him boy. But the character of Jean-Luc Picard, and I know I have only had a few episodes of, meeting this character, but I don't know, just from what I've seen and from the way everyone describes Jean-Luc Picard, this doesn't seem characteristic of him to be like, look at this little shit boy. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying he lets him on the bridge now, right? But for some reason, there is so much contempt whenever he talks about Wesley, and it's so odd.
Well, you know what? It's season one Picard who's a bit cranky, a bit Stenorian,
But
and
some of the episodes, he doesn't seem this cranky. Like if he's talking to other people, like honest to God, it feels like if he wasn't his superior officer, it'd be like Rika coming for a hug, right?
yeah, no, and he quickly warms up just as Patrick Stewart did behind the scenes.
Right.
He warmed up to the other character. Both Picard and Stewart warmed up to their colleagues, but yeah. So it was season one Picard who I think resented the fact that because remember Picard doesn't like children, and he kind of had Wesley foisted on him by Crusher because A, they're old friends, and B, he really really wants to hook up with her.
Yeah, right. He wants to boldly go.
The
Um,
writer's Bible for the show says that he only puts up with Wesley because he wants to get with his mom.
I that's interesting. I
Like, like
forgot that I forgot that they
not,
I forgot that they did that.
not even exaggerating.
I forgot that they did that. Okay, so but yeah, no. Again, look, I don't. I just let's move on. Let's move on from Wesley just for a second. I like the prosthetics that they used for the Traveler. Fun fact, I didn't know this. The Traveler was actually he auditioned for the role of Data and was
hmm
close to being Data.
Yeah,
That's super interesting.
I think it was Eric Menyuk was the guy's name. He was
Mm,
a runner-up. He was a pretty close runner-up for Data.
that's nuts to think about that he actually could have been Data.
Yeah, no, there was actually a lot of swapping around a lot of interesting finalists for the parts. The guy that played the Rocketeer was runner up for Riker,
Huh?
and the guy that played ended up playing Wayoon and a bunch of other characters in other Trek series was also a Jeffrey Combs is also up for consideration
For Data.
for Riker.
Oh, okay, for Riker. Um, no, it's so interesting. Cause like I'm happy that I feel like certain shows they usually go, all right, goodbye, and they just kind of like send you off. But it's actually nice that they had him come on to be another character, especially one like the Traveler who does have all of, like it's interesting how I'm not saying that he's basically Data, but it is interesting that it is a role of great importance, mental uh, a lot of smarts there, I guess. I don't have a lot of mental. I'm trying to think of the right words.
It's a cerebral character. It's kind of a
Thank
mysterious
you.
and soft-spoken character.
Right.
And it's good that they don't let anybody go to waste. Like, maybe he didn't end up landing the role, for Data, but they still liked what he could do. They still found that he had something to offer the show. So, they bring him on as a guest star. They did that with a few other people too.
No, I really did enjoy that. And I felt it was interesting. I feel like this, even though I liked it as a standalone, I think this is an episode that could have been a two-parter, and I wouldn't have complained.
Right, because the thing is, they were sent to a completely different galaxy, so it would track that it would take a little doing to get them back. So that wouldn't
Yeah.
that wouldn't be a terrible idea for a two-parter, especially if you wanted to explore, which I think they had originally intended to explore a little bit deeper into the illusions and put the characters in a variety of different situations that they had to get out of based around their own thoughts. I think that Jack Crusher, that Wesley's dad, was supposed to appear in some fashion as like an
Oh.
image or as a. But that was also, like I said, that was an earlier draft of the script where they were kind of getting into it more.
Is this on your CD-ROM that you have?
No, this was just I actually forgot where I heard it. It might have been Memory Alpha or one of those, but it wasn't in the original in like an early draft of the script. It was like a really really early concept of the story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a problem because I feel as if this did get split up into two, they probably would have found a way just to elongate the earlier parts, the technobabble parts, and they would have ended the two-parter, like the first half, at them being, 300, what was it, 300 years away from home.
Yeah, something like that.
So I think that they would have just stopped it there. instead of doing something really cool and keeping up the weird stuff that was going on. And I think what was interesting too is I thought initially Worf would have looked like he was hallucinating to everybody else. But no, people could see the illusions, and that was interesting.
Right, exactly. It wasn't just visible to you; it was, everybody else as well.
And it wasn't technically an illusion. Like that boar could have killed them all.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
The Targ just goes crazy on everybody.
I mean, well, actually, I feel like between the Targ and the cat probably would hurt more people.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, because we saw the Targ, we saw the cat, we saw the funniest thing to me was the fire, only because, and I'm not blaming the actor. I don't know if I'd do any better, but him going ah like it kind of felt like a PS1 game voice acting.
yeah. Well, the thing is, he was probably trying to react to something that wasn't there because
And
obviously they had to add the fire in post.
but I feel
So
like they probably told him it was fire. It's just he didn't know how close it was to him.
yeah, ow, ow, oh no.
Well, no, because it was close enough that I'm like, he should actually be suffering some burns or maybe some smoke inhalation. I don't.
Yeah,
It was.
convection, schminvection.
I mean, it was again. It was close. It was too close. Also, the scene with Yar. That's come. I have the episode playing in the background as we talk about it. Um, that scene at least made, I don't know, more sense than the first time they did it. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like I'm not saying that I'm. It's weird because the first time it happened, I was like, why are they doing this? Damn it, why are they doing this? But now that they've stuck with it and they're like, you know what, this did happen. If we're gonna have these illusions, let's have this show up. Okay, it just is so odd to me that I mean, look, if I was in LaForge's position, I wouldn't know what to say either. But literally, you have Yar being like, "I was there with the rape gangs on my colony," and he's like, "Are you okay? Are you alright?" Like, I don't know what I would say personally, but it's just such a weird reaction.
Yeah, it's an odd subject to broach, and at least in this case, they had a bit more of an organic lead in for it.
Yeah,
It made a bit of it made a bit of sense and context.
yeah, because it didn't make sense with the oh, you're drunk, so you want to have sex because rape gangs, and you're. I was like, what? And I know
Yeah,
there's a greater context to it, but it just boils down. It just doesn't add up. Even though she was drunk, still it doesn't add up. It wasn't. It's not a sensual thing. So why is sex being thrown in when it was about rape? So in this case, it's a traumatic experience. You're showing it in a traumatic way, and she met a cat there, so that makes sense why the cat would be there.
right, exactly. So there was a bit of context for it. It was a bit more organic than it might have been in the previous couple times that it was.
I think it was only mentioned once so far.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I couldn't remember whether it was mentioned in the pilot or not, or if she just said that she in the pilot that she came from a rough place, and then we didn't find out until the naked now exactly how bad it was.
she may have said that in the pilot, but I think that it may have come up during during the Q Inquisition,
Pilot.
the Quinquisition, yeah, the trial. That's a better way to frame it. Um, yeah, I feel weird about it, but again, if it gets explored like this through a traumatic lens and not a sexual lens, I'm not gonna complain. It's just the reason why I complained the first time, and even now I have some reservations, is because while humanity is always going to have problems, obviously, they're trying to paint TNG as like we're here, we got there, and even as a child, I mean, unless they also get unnaturally, like they age unnaturally, the same way that uh, oh god, Forrester Bones, the way Bones did, where he's like in his 130s by the first
Right.
episode. Unless they do that, it just is odd to me. Like, oh, right now we've reached peak humanity. I'm talking about like we're all chill, everything's great, none of the wars. I mean, we're just traveling the galaxy. We're doing just fine. 20 years ago, though, we did have some rape gangs, but like now we're good.
Yeah, that always kind of bothered me actually that they said that Picard is standing there saying that, oh, humanity has evolved past such barbarism and blah blah blah, and in the background is standing his chief of security who grew up with rape gangs. So that was kind of interesting to me because said that I think the colony. I don't know. I think the colony that she was part of broke off of the Federation, but it wasn't just the Federation that was on trial. It was humanity.
Right.
So
And you
that
said
always bothered. I gotta admit that always bothered me.
by the way, you said that that it's a failed colony. So we're going to learn more about it later most likely, but you've said the word failed a few times, so that does make you think, yeah, no, they weren't part of the Federation like you just stated. So like they're not part of they're humans, but they're not part of the like what we see on screen now. We're seeing the good, the best.
Yeah,
They were yeah.
we are seeing like an idealized, an idealized crew, an idealized Earth, an idealized, kind of world.
Right.
But there are some glaring issues with it that I feel like, it's like, oh no, it's perfect. The future's perfect. We're all that barbarism that's behind us. That's in the 20th century with
Yeah.
with you scumbags watching this in 1987.
Yes, sing the theme song, scum. Oh, actually, it's funny. Like, imagine Yar just confronts him, like, we had, like, these gangs, right? He's like, oh my god, we had none of that in France. I apologize. So, by the way, I love that he's just randomly French. Nothing about him so far has made me think, and I know people are going to be like, Matt, his name is fucking Jean-Luc Picard. But, like, and?
Yeah, so he was actually the character's French. The actor, of course, is very British, and
Yeah.
I think there were some early attempts when the show was in production. I remember Patrick Stewart saying in an interview that they had him read the space, the final frontier monologue in a French accent to see how it would sound, and it sounded like something out of Pink Panther. So they decided, you know what, Patrick Stewart has a very distinctive voice and a very nice accent. Let's just let it stand that he sounds British, even though he's very much French.
That is so funny, though, that I just, oh my god, it probably would have gotten canceled with season one. Picard's like, are you sure I can't do the Stewart's like, are you sure I can't do the French accent? I can do it very, very, very well. That's not even
Space, the final frontier.
the final frontier.
She is so vast.
Borom.
Space, she is so fast.
Oh my god. Stardate. By the way, if you think my French accent is bad, maybe we should go check out the tapes for Stewart. He can do his own accent very well. By the way, how funny is it? They hire a British guy. He already has a great sounding accent, commanding. Again, great voice. Like, why wouldn't you just hire an American dude to do a French accent, or just hire a French guy?
But you know what? I think they needed Patrick Stewart. They needed
No,
his
no, they
voice.
did.
They needed his presence.
No, no, they did. I'm just saying, it's kind of silly that they were like, what if he does a French accent? Why? For what purpose?
Yeah, we'll get a British guy and just have him sound, have him sound French.
Why? Why? Also, I don't know why he needed to be French. I mean, I'm not saying. Look, I'm cool with all types of representation, especially of humanity, but I don't know why he needed to be French.
I think they were going for, and this might have been another thing that came through in the writers' bibles. They were looking for like a Jacques Cousteau type character,
Oh, duh.
like
Yeah.
like an undersea explorer but in space kind of deal.
Right. So does that mean that Picard has a mistress?
Not that we know of, or at least at least not as far as why did
Well,
Jacques
I
Cousteau
mean,
have a mistress?
I'll say this much. I'll say this much. If Wesley really is his kid, he's basically had a secret family all along.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you not know that? He actually had a secret family and mistress, and when his wife passed away, he just married the mistress.
Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Kind of had a falling out with his son. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not saying he's not a good explorer. Just saying that is what happened, and when I heard about
He
it,
just did a little too much spelunking in the bunk.
he did a little too much exploring. That's what he did.
Exactly.
You gotta settle down. Yeah.
Clock out once in a while, man.
Exactly. Jesus Christ. So anyway, but that's a good point, though. They probably were thinking of a Jacques Cousteau, and well, I mean, I get it, but no. Like, I don't know. It's just something that maybe at the time it was very. Of course, in the '80s that was very relevant, but now in the 2010s, it's just not really. It doesn't click.
Yeah, but and then honestly, I feel like his being French kind of ends up being incidental because early on in season one, they were trying to do like a thing where he's very proud. He's like fiercely proud of his French heritage and speaks in glowing terms of the culture and becomes defensive when anytime anybody criticizes it. But they dropped that running joke pretty quickly. I don't think it survives much past the first few episodes.
It really, I don't know, it really, I haven't seen much of it other than this, in these few episodes, other than this one episode with he's like, Maman? Yes, of
Oh yeah, it's
course.
good. Mama, that's what they
Yeah,
call
Maman?
that's mommy or mom in
Yeah.
French.
But you're dead. Yes, and you were also French. Things change, darling. I just,
But also, what's choice though is that sometimes he'll say, and I think this carried on into some of the later episodes too, is that occasionally he'll say merde, which is French for a certain four-letter word that begins with S.
oh, that's interesting. And the reason why it's interesting is I'm wondering how it's used in French, on French television, or in France in general. Because, no, because there's certain ones that we get wrong in the US all the time. Like the B word, for,
Hmm.
used in Britain usually. Yeah, the B word is actually, it means, they use it as like the F word, but it's not meant to be the F word. It's
Yeah.
actually, yeah. So it's one of those things where I wonder how that's used in France. Um, Either way, though, I told you from the beginning of this episode that I knew that there was a grift going on. I just didn't know that it was actually. I didn't know the type of grift because I, honest to God, thought it was one of those like you pull up into a town, it's you and your assistant, and you're like, look at this new toxin. It makes your teeth grow. It makes your hair white. What? Uh, and you can warp speed to new galaxies. Like I don't know. I looked at it
Yeah,
as a
because
grift.
Kaczynski ended up being a snake oil salesman, and
He
really everything
was,
was is that it was all the
but
traveler. But yeah, they were kind of like a song, and it was a song, kind of the song. Kaczynski was kind of like the song and dance man, when it was really the
yes.
traveler that was making everything happen.
But to be fair, it wasn't. It technically is a grift, yes, but it wasn't. There was no purpose. Like I thought, once the first half of the episode was done and they were in a random galaxy, it's like, all right, so pay up. I mean, you want to get home, right? But no, it was actually just he wanted to travel, and I think that was a more optimistic way to look at this whole thing, really.
Yeah, then it was more so than Kaczynski being a con artist. It was really, like I said, it was about Kaczynski was almost incidental to the whole thing. He was kind of
Yeah,
just along for the ride.
it's no, but it's
And
interesting because like there was no money exchanged. I mean, they say that they were with the Federation. I don't know why I don't know what's up with that though. Like you would think that if they weren't with the Federation, you could just make a quick phone call. It's not. This is why it kind of came off as the like a 19, not even a 19, an 1800s grift because it felt to me personally like it was like, "Oh man, we've worked with the US president." "Wow, you work with the US president?" "Of course I have." "Don't call him up." "I mean, you can't. We don't have phones." "You could write to him once I leave town." Like it kind of felt like that, where it's just like we came on behalf of the Federation, been approved by the Federation. You know the Federation, of course you know the Federation. Look at you, big sharp man like you knows
yeah,
the Federation.
you got to have a gimmick, son. And while I'm at it, I can sell you some hair tonic too.
Oh, he Picard would, yes. But you see what I'm saying though? Like it felt like he just felt like a fast talker, roll it into town with some miracle bullshit.
Yeah, no, and it's an interesting way of looking at it. I actually didn't even think of that. I just figured that the guy was, a fraud, basically, that thought he was something special when in reality his magic tricks were all. It's not that they weren't real. It's just that somebody else was kind of pulling the strings.
Yeah, I knew someone else was pulling the strings the second we have the Traveler phasing in and out. I'm like, oh, okay, so we know he's the one that's really behind this. That's fair. And but what's funny was when you had Kaczynski when he's sitting there and he's like, uh oh. I'm like, he doesn't want the grift to get found out because there's something wrong with Phasey over there. I didn't know that he was the Traveler, so I'm like, there's something wrong with Phasey, and that means this whole thing is gonna blow up in their face, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, the hair tonic actually makes your piss purple or something. I don't know how it
Yeah.
gets there, but I don't know how the hair tonic eventually gets there, but it makes your piss purple.
It's not for us to know.
No, it's not. Yeah, it was just interesting that it actually became very, very optimistic with I just want to go places. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty nice.
He is the traveler after all. So it was an interesting way to kind of bring him into the fold. It was some pretty decent for their time special effects.
Well, no,
Compared
remember
from
they
the,
were updated.
were they were they updated for like the Blu for the because like, what is it, the Netflix version is based on the Blu-ray, and did they redo
Yes,
it?
yes. I don't know if we've had this conversation, John. Everything was updated, but in the most respectful way possible. So I can't be upset about them. Upset at them about it. Basically, they went through each and every shot painstakingly and tried to correct the color to what they originally wanted it to be. Because when you have the original masters, you actually have someone else color correcting for TV versus DVD. So they or TV like VHS. So they actually tried to get it as close as they could. And then when it came to the special effects, they actually scanned in all of their old masters, like their old like slides, which is why you could do that because they had everything on tape. You could do that with the original and with TNG, but you can't do that with Voyager because it was all compiled together. That's why Voyager generally looks like shit.
And
Like
that's why
when
they
you
say
see,
there's probably never going to be like a remaster of or an HD version of DS9 or Voyager.
yes, but Enterprise, I think it was because it was being filmed on HD cameras, that one actually looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't look terrible even by today's standards.
No, because that was I forgot when it was filmed, but again, they were filming on HD. I think maybe like future proofing it, which is
Well,
actually,
it's
yeah.
Enterprise was 2001 to 2005.
Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it was all of Enterprise or the later seasons, but I'm pretty sure they're good with Enterprise. They're good because it was done on tape and everything else was overlaid separately, all the effects. So when you have all those overlaid separately, it's the same thing with like animation, where it's like if you have all the cells, well, you can go back, you can clean some things up. Maybe don't go too heavy with it. Don't like remove all the noise, but still you can clean things up as best as you can. Make some good looking anime for Blu-ray. But if you only have everything compiled, you can only go so far.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so and with certain anime made during certain years when they weren't done on like when they were already compiled, like just done to tape and not I think I'm using the right terms, but not done separately where you had the originals all, separate, all the original files. When that was done and it was digital, that's what I'm looking for, digital, not tape. Digital is the bad. Is digital's not good. Tape is good. So yeah, so they actually painstakingly. That's why the TNG seasons were kind of expensive when they came out for DVD and Blu-ray because they tried their damnedest and they did not get a return on their investment.
Mm.
Yeah. But I'm assuming they're using those for this because, like you said, these effects look too good for if they were just done in the 80s.
Yeah. So, and honestly, like I said, even thinking back to the original, and like I said, I didn't see the original broadcast, but when I saw it in reruns on TV, it didn't look too bad. It
Oh,
held up
no, no.
decently bad.
Again, they're not technically recreating anything. I mean, I'm sure some episodes. I think some episodes did actually, but I don't think the ones we've seen so far have actually technically recreated any scenes. They just took what they originally had and made it work in HD by upscaling it and doing other technical
It's a
stuff.
remaster.
Yes, it's a remaster. It's not like a remake. So I don't believe they remade the fire, as in like, oh, the fire was tinier, or it wasn't fire. It was actually icicles. Something like that. Like, no, it was still fire, but obviously they had to make sure that it would look good on, newer televisions and things like that. Because some newer fans might forget, if there's any newer fans listening in, we used to watch this stuff on old tube TVs, old CRTs, some old stuff. I mean, did you even? I feel bad asking John this, but there had to have been one TV in your house in the '80s that was not in color.
You know what? I think by then I think we only had the one TV, and it was in
Oh,
color.
okay. Okay, that's fair. All right.
It was the one in the
Um,
den.
no, because I'm pretty sure I had one TV in my house. Very tiny, though, that was not in color. Very tiny.
Yeah, we had. Yeah, we might have had a portable TV, but I think even that was in color. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so we just had we had one big TV in our house, and it was definitely
Well, no, I knew
you
that
know
TV would be in color, but I had a feeling you had some rabbit ears somewhere
oh, it's
lurking
possible
around.
might have been in the been in the garage or something like that. But yeah, as far as the ones that saw active use, we had a nice big huge wood paneled CRT.
Yeah. Either way, though, so yeah, these special effects are not the originals, quote unquote. Like, they didn't just copy and paste it. And, like, I feel like on a DVD, you should always have the originals available. So I don't know if they had TNG originals available that, wasn't, like, upscaled and everything. I don't know if they did that. I feel weirder with TOS, though, because TOS, it's a much larger gap. So with TOS, it's kind of like, come on, guys. Like, it's really weird that we have all these special effects and then we come see everybody else and you can tell that it's a 50-year-old production. With TNG, I'm not saying it feels like they made it yesterday, but the gap being much shorter, there's only certain scenes where there's way too much noise that I'm like, and I say noise, I'm referring to video noise, that you could see like, ooh, this is, they didn't have good lighting in that one shot or something
Yeah,
like that.
or you can see the box. I know with a lot of the HD remasters, you can better see the box around like the models and stuff like that. I think there was one episode where, or it was no, it was I think it was Wrath of Khan. It was in HD that there was a shot of the Enterprise approaching a space station. You could totally see I think the box where they composited in the effect.
Yeah, so God, let me tell you something sad. So I was watching. There's a show called Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger. Dai Ranger is a Super Sentai, so it's one of the. To John, that means Japanese Power Rangers. So it's one that we didn't get over here, but one of the Rangers was the White Ranger, so we got that suit, but we didn't get the whole show. Like we got like certain clips were thrown in. Maybe like if they fought the monster of the week, the monster would be shown, but the Rangers they never use those suits. This is all relevant, John, I swear. So the show opens up every episode with one of the Rangers, like the long red dragon. It's supposed to be like Shenlong, uh, you know, kind of flying in. And on the TV version, it looks fine. Even the beautiful DVD versions, they look great, but you can still just see it. It looks fine. On one of the movies, got a Blu-ray remaster, and I saw it. And in the Blu-ray, I see it flying because they have the opening theme song in the movie, and I feel so bad because as it opens up, I'm like, I can see the strings,
Yeah.
the way they
That's the problem with
puppeteered it.
HD is that a lot of with HD is that a lot of this stuff that wasn't meant to be visible now is, and there was no way they could have accounted for it, 30 years ago because they couldn't have predicted how good picture quality would get.
And that's why, to a certain extent, I understand someone wanting to, redo something. To a certain extent, I actually do understand it. Like wanting to redo the effects. I think the problem really just becomes, once it gets into Lucas territory, I'm like, don't do that.
Making arbitrary, additions to the, especially when it's Star Wars and you're Star Trek and you're adding Imperial Walkers in.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like with Star Trek, I feel like even though I'm not the biggest fan of it in TOS, still I think that they were trying to be respectful with it and trying to do it in a way that makes sense. Where it's like, hey, we need this to be compatible with newer TVs, so like we'll change how a planet looks, we'll change the model for the Enterprise, but it's much different than if they were like, hey, what if on the planet we saw a Klingon just waving? But why though? But why though? That's kind of how I feel about the
Yeah,
special
yeah,
effects with
yeah.
Star Wars v Star
And
Trek.
then definitely that could be a, um, that could be a whole other podcast. Is of the changes
Oh
that were made
God.
to the different versions of Star Wars, which were justified and which weren't. But
Oh no 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 no.
uh,
We can't go there now. But either way though, yeah, I do feel like this episode was definitely one of the better ones. I do think that oh God, I can't believe I've forgotten her name. The empath.
Troy.
Troy, thank you. I think I loved her inclusion in the episode, even though she was sitting around most of it, but still, I do think that it made sense that she's like, yeah, I don't like him, but that other being, that's interesting. Like, it builds him up. Like, it wasn't necessarily a huge twist that there was something up with the assistant, with the traveler. But I still like that they built it up in a way where, it did make sense. It wasn't just a Shyamalanian twist.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So yeah, I honestly think that this, again, one of the best so far, if not the best. I mean, again, very low bar, but still accurate. Do you have a favorite scene in the episode? As we're kind of wrapping things up.
In this particular episode, I liked. I mean, I liked the actual engine test scene because, like I said, they were building up a lot of excitement. Like, they're testing out this new propulsion system. It's going to let them go faster than they've ever gone before. And they're I'm a big sound, score and soundtrack guy, and the music means a lot to me in a TV
Mm.
show or a movie. And so as they're getting prepping the ship to make this big jump with this new experimental engine, you have the theme song is playlist strains of it are playing, and I thought that was kind of cool and built up a lot of like the heroic anticipation and things like that. And the end part where and you really don't really get a sense of Patrick Stewart's warmth, as well as his authority, because I think he's telling everybody that focus on your duties or on the well-being of the traveler. Think of him as a friend that you care deeply for. And I was like, there's a lot of Patrick Stewart in that line, and I thought it was really cool.
But how
Um,
funny is it? Like, we must be careful of the traveler. Also, if anyone sees Wesley, hit him for me. Thank you.
Exactly, but and also what it was that it was his, and it was a little bit strange because this is what, like I said, this is when they were still trying to make Picard a bit more of a hard ass, and
Mm-hmm.
he goes from saying everybody, focus on the well being of the traveler, and then he orders, red alert with blaring alarms and things like that, which isn't going to really help you focus on anything, but that's another story. But yeah, so that there were definitely some good moments in the episode, and
I
you know,
think, I don't know. I think, oh, my favorite part, as like a small little note where it's just like, I know like Troy had to be there, but it's just kind of funny. Riker's just like, I'm gonna bring Troy. Oh, of course, you two. Why would it be weird that you two are going off to do something? Yes, of course, Captain.
yeah, yeah, and keep in mind, like I said, with Troy, I think Troy is lucky that she had, well, not that Troy is lucky that she had anything to do in the episode, but at this point, they were kind of, they were actually thinking of writing her out of the show because
Oh God.
they were having trouble thinking of things to have her do. Because I think they like the concept of having like an empath and a counselor right on the bridge, right at the captain's right hand. But I think they were the writers at this point were very bad at writing for female characters, which I think to this day ends up being a problem with a lot of male writers. But that's again that's a whole other story. But yeah, no, they weren't really sure what to do with her at this point.
Here's what they should have done. All right, let me paint the picture for you, John. They should have had her. Wesley should have been freaking out over something. I don't know what. Maybe like his toy truck wasn't going through the hole or something, and so he's freaking out. And all of a sudden, she's like, "What's wrong?" And she touches him, and she starts to burn up. And she says, "Oh my goodness, you're..." And then she just turns to dust. And then Wesley gains her powers, and so now Wesley is also an empath. That's what they should have done. Because at this point, I mean, what was Wesley going to do other than be God? They had
Yeah.
nothing for him other than being Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah. So there were still a little bit of growing pains as they figured out everybody's role in the ensemble. And like I said, TNG was a lot more of an ensemble show than TOS was, but it took a little while for them to get the chemistry between the characters down. But once they did, like I said, it really took off.
I love how you no sold everything I just said. Complete no sell. You're like, that does make sense. They would do that, Matt. Anyway, am I the Wesley to you? Is that what you just did to me?
No, no. The only similarity I have to Wesley in this episode is that I'm sure you would rock a orange pumpkin sweater.
Well, I mean, fall is coming up. Or if, when this is coming out, fall is here. Um,
Yes, it's been
yeah,
fall for some weeks now here
perhaps.
in whenever.
In Wheneverland, where. But anyway, no, I think my favorite part of the episode, honestly, in a weird way, it kind of may have been the part where we have the traveler saying, "Yeah, no, watch that boy," because at this point, it's like honestly, now I'm intrigued. I don't like it, but I'm intrigued. And so it is kind of sad, even though it was the smart decision to kind of downplay that. In a way, it is kind of sad narratively that they're just like, yeah, let's never do that again.
What, as far as like the
Wesley being whatever. Because like even though like I don't like the scene where the traveler looks at Wesley and is like, "Don't talk to them about these things," because it's like,
They're not
dude,
ready
they're not gonna
for it.
understand you anyway. Like what? Like they're not gonna lock him up in a mental institution. They don't have those anymore, assumingly.
And
Like they
they probably wouldn't even have like listened to him because the theme of the episode is that nobody listens to Wesley,
exactly.
even when he's even when he's right. Which
Oh,
again, but
literally, Picard's like, "Why didn't you say anything?" "I'm
I
sorry, sir.
did.
I didn't listen to him." "Please, Riker, it's okay. Don't worry." "Wesley, why didn't you tell him harder?"
Yeah, yeah. So and
I,
again, that's another turn on the adults are assholes, and Wesley's smarter than anyone gives him credit for. Blah 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 blah, and which again is a lot of. I feel like and I'm sorry if I'm being uncharitable to the man, but I also feel it's like a lot of Gene Roddenberry's. I'm a misunderstood genius kind of complex coming through.
Man, that guy did a lot of drugs. Anyway, I mean, it's a side note, but it's accurate. Yeah, no, I'm just, I don't know. I feel as if, even though I didn't like it, they were building up to it. So why wouldn't you at least slightly pull the trigger? Man, I don't know how you would do it, but it is kind of sad that eventually we're gonna move away from this. I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying that narratively it feels odd that it's just like there are certain things that I'm happy that they're going to stop talking about in later seasons. But I think this is one of those things where it's like, damn, you were too much. It's too much, but you were building it so much that in a weird way that actually piqued my interest strangely. And again, everyone treats him like such an asshole, or yeah, like he's an asshole and they're assholes in doing it. That it kind of does make me sit there and not. I don't want him to like run roughshod. He already technically did that a few episodes ago, and I didn't like it. But actually, you know what's funny, dude? They really should have flipped the order of the episodes because if this one came out first and then he was drunk taking over the ship, it would make a lot more sense, wouldn't it?
Meaning like like this episode happened, and then he had his fantasy about taking the ship over and acting
Yes.
on it when he was well yeah, because if he was disenfranchised by the fact that nobody was listening to him, then yeah,
Yeah.
that might ring a little bit truer.
It's so odd that they didn't put that one first. I wonder if it was maybe potentially thought that way and they were like, no, we have to flip it for some reason. Because, dude, it's super odd that they just didn't do that. Because it makes no sense. Like, by the time this episode comes around, for some people, they thought he was so insufferable, him being Jesus makes them pissed, and they're probably rooting for Picard and Riker to knock him out. He's just a kid. But, like, he is so insufferable at this point because he
It's
literally
funny.
took over the ship.
It's funny though because you're mentioning it. I don't know if you've actually gotten out this in TOS, but what you're describing is actually almost sounds like a certain TOS episode where there's this like superpowered teenager that Kirk and Spock have to like
Oh,
outwit.
Charlie X.
Charlie. It sounds like it almost
Dun.
sounds like Charlie X, but with Wesley.
Kind of, yeah. A little bit, yes. I may
A
have.
darker turn on the where rather than just being an insufferable know-it-all, he's like a little Anthony type Twilight Zone figure.
That's actually kind of funny. So Anthony Toto, who I podcast with, Star Trek TOS, I podcast that with him, podcast this with you. So when we did Charlie X, I may have made a reference to it being like Wesley. I may have.
It's like what if Wesley actually did have superpowers and it just went terribly wrong.
Oh my god. I hope you see the engine guy again. He seemed chill. He seemed like a normal dude.
Oh, what was Argyle? Yeah. So in the first season, there really wasn't a permanent chief engineer. There was kind of a revolving door of different characters. I think Argyle, who was one of the chief engineers, appeared a few times,
Where
and
do
I
they
think
drop
he
him
was the
off?
closest. Was that?
Where do they drop him off?
What do you
It's a
mean?
rotating position. Where do they drop the other ones off?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know what you do when it's not your turn. Like, do you go?
Yeah.
You go, do they drop you off somewhere? Do you go work in the mess hall instead or something? I don't know, but yeah, it was. I think Biff Yeager was the actor's name, and there was some kind of weird thing where I think he was the closest thing to becoming like a permanent chief engineer on the show before Geordi just took over in season two. But supposedly he started like a fake letter writing campaign to get him made like a permanent chief engineer, and he was like forging letters from fans or something. I don't know. It was some kind of weird story behind it.
First of all, because no one's getting hurt by it, like nobody got killed, I admire his effort. Two, the fact that he didn't get it, but a character named LaForge got it is fucking hilarious.
He LaForged those fan letters. But what I
That's
do appreciate
fucking
about Argyle,
hilarious.
though, is that he's a chubby guy, and there's almost none of those in Next Gen.
Yeah, no, like he just looks like a normal dude. Like everybody else is like fantastical in some way, and he's just like, "Hey guys, what's up? I'm your chief engineer. Fucks up." Like I don't know, like he seems like a dude who I would want at the kegger. I'm just saying he just seems normal. We could have a nice conversation. Like everyone else just seems like they're all like in their own little worlds, and he's just like, "Look, man, I'm just trying to like help out the ship, but not in like a way that's like really out there."
In a remake, he could be played by Seth Rogen.
Oh god, I just imagine when I hear Seth Rogen now, I just picture him laughing. That's all I hear in my head is Seth Rogen's raspy laughter.
Hey guys, what's going on with this new warp engine design?
But no, I don't know. I really liked him. Like he didn't really do much, but like something about he was chill but yet somehow intense. I liked it.
Yeah, he
You know?
wasn't. He wasn't bad. He was a fairly decent. Fairly decent character for what he was and for what he did and for how long he lasted.
No, I just loved it. Him and Riker just didn't trust Kaczynski immediately, and that's good. And by the way, it shows Picard's willingness in his crew to be like, you know what, fine, take care of it, because
Yeah,
he could have went down himself. You know, he could have been like, don't worry about it, I'm gonna go see what's going on. But he's like, hey, you two, you know what, you have problems with it, then fine, like talk to him, we'll see what's up. And then I love it where Riker's just like, you can go to the captain. Answer's not going to change.
yeah, exactly. No, he delegates, and also like just their unease with having him mess around with their engines too. Like I said, they're basically trusting this guy and his new miracle formula that will help him go. Go, which actually is funny because I think they go beyond warp 9. And according to a later Voyager episode, which was considered so bad that it was erased from the canon, making you going faster than warp 9 turns you into a salamander.
Could you imagine if for the entire episode they all just didn't know they were salamanders? Like we didn't see it, but they were like Q is laughing somewhere like they're all salamanders. Like they just didn't
That
know.
would have been
They
that would
were
have been an interesting retcon.
they were all just flopping around. Could you know honestly, I would if the new Picard show doesn't have him referencing the episode they became salamanders, I would be upset.
Yeah, no, and honestly, like I think of all the characters to bring back for the, like I said, I won't speak any more about the Voyager episode because you need to see it for yourself to truly believe. But
Okay.
I think Janeway and Paris's salamander children need to make an appearance in the Picard show.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to talk about that. Anyway, I don't want. I don't know anything about. Anyway, so, I think we've reached peak. We've reached the peak. We're done. I don't know what else to say other than thank you all so much for tuning in as always. If you're watching this through our Those Guys on the Radio channel, thank you so much. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you're watching this through our Blog Talk Radio account, which is blogtalkradio.com/Those Guys on the Radio, thank you so much as well. And also, you could be watching this through our iTunes, searching up Those Guys on iTunes and downloading our stuff and listening to us on the go. No matter how you're watching or listening to this, thank you so much. And hopefully you tune in next time for another episode of Star Trek Thursday. So, love you all. Take care. Tune in next time. And see ya.
In which John gets banned from the show for discussing Threshold.